I'm Tori, and today I am going to be talking about Cinder by Marissa Meyer. So this is a book that I most often hear described as Cyborg Cinderella, which is true, but I would say the best description for the book would be something that has the basic plot points of Cinderella, kind of the general vibe of a sci-fi show like Dollhouse or something, where no one's quite sure who they are or what's real and what isn't, or where people come from, but set in something kind of like Anakin Skywalker's workshop on Tatooine, with just a sprinkling of plague mixed in for fun. This book was very interesting for me. I loved it. I was loving it until I got to one part, and then I was just kind of like, and I still love the parts I love, but that one part was kind of just not really my thing. So if you've read the book, stick around and discuss it with me. And if you have not, then go read it and come back and watch this video once you're done. Okay, so I really loved the way this book started out. I thought Cinder was a great character. I loved the idea of her being a mechanic. I loved Aiko, who was great. I thought the world was developed very well. You really understood the prejudice and stuff towards cyborgs and lunars and all those kinds of things they were dealing with. And you understood the politics and the things that Prince Kai was dealing with and how the plague worked and all that. So that was really well laid out, and I didn't ever wonder what was going on with the world, so it felt very realistic. And I was loving the plot and kind of loving what was going on until we got to the ball part. And to me, it felt like this story wanted very much to be Cinderella. And so it did things that the characters didn't feel like they would normally do. And it felt like it had to work very hard to stick to the plot points of Cinderella. I felt like it would have been better if it just had an essence of Cinderella, kind of, and then did its own thing. But it seemed to me like it had to jump through a lot of hoops to be actual Cinderella. So first of all, the car that looked like a pumpkin sounded very much like some kind of a Volkswagen Beetle to me. I'm not sure what it was, but it was stick shift, which means not only was it a car that was left over from our time when there were cars, but right now stick shifts aren't even that common. So getting some kind of a big stick shift Volkswagen thing, that would be kind of old now. And this has, like, several world wars have gone by. This is many, many hundreds of years in the future. So it seemed strange to me that of all, it seemed like if she was going to find a car, it would be something that's much ahead of our time, not something that's that old, and then she could just fix it up and get it to run without any other car parts or anything. It seemed very unlikely to me. Another thing I didn't get was as soon as she plugged the chip in and got the message from Cress, then she said, oh, I could try calming Kai, but he probably won't answer his comms during the ball, so I'll just have to go there. It's like, if you were really in that much of a dire situation and you needed to talk to someone, you would be sending crazy amounts of comm messages saying, I really need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please contact me as soon as possible. This will affect your country's future decisions. Please talk to me. So I thought it was crazy that she didn't even try sending him a message. She just took off for the ball. And that just didn't seem very realistic to me. Once she got to the ball, it was just excruciating. I'm the kind of person who doesn't like watching characters I care about embarrass themselves. There are parts of my favorite shows I've never seen, because whenever they're going to make a huge fool of themselves, I just can't watch. I can't handle that. And so I figured, Cinderella has always had a little bit of this embarrassing kind of element to it. It always has that moment, where she comes in and it's awkward, but usually in like more of the fairy tale-ish versions, it's kind of swept over and that's gone very quickly. But here, it went on for pages. I couldn't even read it all the way. So I was just skimming through and just cringing and waiting for something to happen. And there were pages and pages of her just standing in the ballroom with people staring at her and her not doing anything. Her not immediately finding Kai, like she was there. And then people were noticing her, and Kai was noticing her, and there was this whole dramatic thing where her stepmother tried to slap her, and it just went on and on and on, and you're thinking, okay, this is a televised coronation event. Why is the royal staff putting up with this? Why hasn't some publicist come and swept her out of the room by now? It just didn't make any sense to me. It just drug on in excruciating detail. And that wasn't really to help the plot or anything. It was just so we could all suffer and watch how awkward she was. And actually, toward the end of it, I started getting a little immune to the awkwardness, and I was just like, okay, she's been through all this horrible stuff. She's embarrassed everyone she knows. She's never going to live this down. Let's just get important things said. And I was kind of able to enjoy some of the drama. But then the dramatic elements seemed like they were trying too hard to fit into the Cinderella mold and didn't happen the way you'd think they would. I mean, the queen tried to assassinate a person and she ran down the steps and lost her foot because she's Cinderella. But it wasn't like anyone was trying to track her down. It was just this completely pointless public tumble. So it was like they were trying to mash it into this Cinderella mold, even though it wasn't that story anymore, and they should have just let it be its own story. So that part was excruciating for me to get through, and it made me stop enjoying the book as much as I had been. I still really want to know what happens next, and now that Cinder's not so desperate to get Kai's attention, it seemed like I would like to know what happened after she made her plan to break out of the jail cell. I would like to know what happens next. I just want to forget that whole couple of chapters and just let it go away, because that part was not fun. So overall, the book was really fun. I liked kind of being able to guess things as the story was going along. There was the moment where Cinder tried to attack the doctor with the wrench, and something strange happened to her, and I thought, oh, he's Lunar. That makes sense. And so I was expecting him to be Lunar. Then there was the line in the book about how the Princess Celine was dead, and everyone knew she was dead because they found part of her. They found actual skin samples. And I was thinking, okay, so she pulled a Peter Pettigrew. From that point on, I knew she was a cyborg, and I was 99% certain that she was Cinder. So that was something that I could kind of see coming. But I still enjoyed the story. I liked the whole thing with her going to visit her sister in quarantine, and it really made sense in that world that they wouldn't have policed it. Another thing that really impressed me was that during the scene where Cinder is dancing with the prince, now the emperor, she thinks that he knows she's a cyborg. He's like, oh, yay, everything's fine. And I was really disappointed because they do that a lot in these things. And there would have been, just, oh, magically everything's fine. He's not going to need to think about this at all. And I really liked it that when he did find out, he was uncomfortable, because that's the way prejudice works. And I think if you say something like, oh, people need to not be prejudiced, so if you find out you are prejudiced, just stop it, isn't very realistic, and that's not a way to help people become more accepting of each other. And I predict now that what's going to happen is we'll go on for a couple of books, and Prince Kai will have a while to think, and eventually he'll be able to reconcile the beliefs he grew up with. He'll be able to say, I know I grew up with these beliefs, but this person is a very good person, and I care about her a lot, and it doesn't actually matter to me that she's a cyborg. But that's not the kind of thing that you would just get over and that you would just hear in 5 seconds and be okay with it if you're raised in that kind of a culture. So I really liked it. This reminded me of a little bit the way it's handled in the Bloodlines series by Rochelle Mead. That series also does a very good job of showing somebody get over their prejudices, but do it in a kind of a realistic way where it's not just, oh, rainbows and unicorns, let's all be friends now and none of us will have anything to think about. It's a much more natural kind of progression of, okay, I acknowledge that I have prejudices, but I can't quite get over them, but I want to, but I'm going to work at it, and then eventually you do get over them. And so I really like it. This book and the Bloodline series are the only young adult books I can think of where they actually handle things like that, and where learning something about someone is something you actually have to think about and work at to be accepting and stuff, instead of just, oh, magically, let's all get along, kumbaya, there's no problem in the world that we can't fix with 30 seconds of love. So I was very happy about that. I thought it was very realistic and made the world feel much more grounded. And I'm guessing at the end of the series that Cinder and Prince Kai will get together, and I think when they do, that will make their relationship much stronger and much more believable, because it has that kind of realistic element to it. So then there was the scene where we met Cress, and I know that that's the title of another book, so we automatically assume that that's the Rapunzel character, and so it was very fun to see her. And there was also a mention of the young stepdaughter Winter, so that's going to be Cinderella. So I didn't pick up on anything about Scarlet, which is the main character in the next book, but I think there might have been something in there that I missed, or anyway, I will look forward to seeing her, and I will look forward to seeing all the other characters. So I'm definitely going to continue reading these books. I really love this book, except for the kind of forced Cinderella-ish parts of it and that excruciating ball scene. That was very, very painful to get through. But apart from that, I thought it was a great book, and I look forward to continuing the Lunar Chronicles.